Hello and welcome to the Ham Radio Guy podcast, where we explore all things amateur radio from gear, gadgets, and on-the-air adventures, and everything in between. I'm your host, Marvin, call sign W0MET. I'm here to connect with you on the latest tips, tricks, news, and stories to take your ham radio experience to the next level. Whether you're a seasoned operator, a weekend POTA warrior, or just getting started, this is the place to be. So grab your favorite coffee, tune up your rig, and let's get on the air, because the world of amateur radio is awaiting. Guys, this is going to be a super exciting show. I've got some great topic for you, talking about mobile safety driving. We're going to have some great news stories that are coming out for this year. I think there's some information that's there, and just really a lot of cool things going on. It's a little cool this morning here or this afternoon in Massachusetts. I'm had to go turn my pellet stove on. I'm drinking an ice drink here, but really should probably be having a tea or a coffee this afternoon myself. I wasn't really thinking about that. Warm me up a little bit, but it's a little cool down here in the basement in the studio. But if you guys are ready to elevate your gear and enjoy a fresh cup of coffee, go check out my store at w0met.myshopify.com. And I think you'll find some exclusive swag over there, some items that you're missing. I've got a lot of products I've used on Amazon. I've thrown it into that store. Definitely my premium coffee. Guys, I've gone around the world, working with vendor to try and come up with some great stuff. I've got, your breakfast blends. I've got your medium roast. I think I've even got a dark roast on there. I've got the Morse code mocha, the CQ blend. So definitely some great coffees for you to be able to go out and try. I've had a couple different bags of it, and it's all very good. I enjoy drinking it myself. And so, I think if you haven't gone out and done that, you're certainly missing out on a couple items there that I want you to be able to take advantage of. So I put it out there for you guys, and it does help me in return a little bit. But, again, I'm not getting rich off of it. So I certainly appreciate it. And if you go to visit the swag store, we've got mugs and magnets and much more. And I appreciate the advertising and marketing a little bit. That helps me and get more word out on my subscribers, and my numbers continue to grow. Appreciate those who have joined the YouTube channel and continue to listen to the podcast there and subscribe, getting a lot more hits on the channel. And I certainly appreciate that by all means. And so I hope that, if you're listening and you're just maybe going out and listening each week to the episode, go join YouTube. That helps me in the algorithm and gets me out there a little bit more. And so I certainly appreciate that. I spend a lot of time, trying to prepare episodes and videos and reading content and researching topics. And, I've recently put out a couple more videos. I got another one coming out here probably early next week. Interview with K3KLB talking about Winter Field Day. And I threw a spoiler out there in that show that I did. That'll be coming out. That Winter Field Day results are released. The scores are up. I know it's a shocker to a lot of you, but we're all very happy about that ourselves, that we do have that there for sure. So, it's good. Good. People are going to be happy about that this year. We are not waiting till, long down the road to be able to get that done like we did this past year. We had a lot of changes that we made, and that caused a lot of issues for us to be able to get those scores out last year. But here it is now before April 1st, and there's no April Fools there at all, that we've got those scores out. But, getting back into the benefits of being part of the podcast and joining is that, I know a few of you have taken what's the word I want to say? Part of my affiliate codes, you've used them and you've taken part in those, and I certainly appreciate that. And I want to be able to provide a benefit to you as patrons, and I appreciate that. You can save money, and it really costs you nothing more to do it. And speaking of hams, we all like free things for sure. And so, of all the free things you can get by subscribing to my channel for free on YouTube, cost you absolutely nothing. Join the Patreon page. You can join for free over there if you'd like. And, I do obviously put my content out to members early in advance. And I want them to be able to have access to that first because they do pay for that. And that's part of their benefit to be able to get the information early. And that's including my videos, blogs, or anything else I'm putting out. I recently put out some information, talking about, a bunch of work I'd done on regards to my mixer and having some issues and just kind of a life lesson that I learned from that. And, I thought that was really great. So you can go find me on patreon.com/the ham radio guy and, look for me over there as well. This week, or as always, the Ham Radio Guy is sponsored by Dakota Lithium. And, they like to power your adventures with the ham radios, with batteries built to last. And I'll be using those batteries as my ham radio adventure this spring. Summer. Yeah, I guess in June, whatever it'd be summer. When I'm going to Alaska, I'm taking 2 10-amp-hour batteries with me. And so whether you're heading out for a POTA activation, gearing up for field day, or just need reliable power for your ham shack. Ham shack's also powered by 100 amp hour Dakota Lithium battery for me, and that's my backup. So with twice the power, half the weight, and 11-year amazing warranty, these batteries are designed to keep you on the air longer. I've been using Dakota Lithium now for about 2 years for my own portable operations, and I'll tell you that the performance is unmatched. They've been very good for me, and no more worrying about dead batteries in the middle of an activation. Just pure and dependable power that I need, and it works for me, whenever I need it. So check them out, and you can find them over at dakotalithium.com and get ready to experience the ultimate in portable energy solutions. And be sure to tell them the Ham Radio Guy sent you. Check out my link in the show notes and save 5% there as well. So, again, if you want to be part of the Ham Radio Guy community over on Patreon, 3 different levels you can join at. It's like $2, $3, and $5 a month. And, I've got a couple people at the general level there. So in the middle, and I hope that you can take advantage of that. So help support the podcast here. So we can keep bringing you fresh content and growing out our amazing ham radio community. Again, I appreciate all the people that have continued to join. And, so what are you waiting for? Just be part of that. Well, with that, let's get into a little bit of news and let's see how things are going here. Now, this might be a little bit of older news. It came out, I think, March 12th, and the FCC chairman, Brendan Carr, has launched a new docket called Delete. And you guys have probably seen quite a few people on YouTube talking about this, and I think it's a lot more hype than a lot of people are going to find. It's my personal opinion on this. I don't think this is going to be something that's surrounding a lot of us. Could it have some effect on us? I think it could. But I just don't think that the hype that's been put around this is going to be that big a deal. They're asking for public input on eliminating outdated FCC rules to reduce regulatory burdens, and I think this is more into the more bigger broadcasting businesses than it is to us. And again, maybe we can get some of those baud rates and some of those things that a burden that we've been asking for a while. That might be something we might be able to be advantageous for us. But, the review will really consider factors such as cost-benefit analysis, technological advances, which is, I'm hoping that's what's going to benefit us, some market changes and regulatory barriers. Again, that's more to the bigger broadcasting side. So Carr emphasized that under President Trump's leadership, the administration is rolling back excessive regulations to boost economic growth. He noted that many rules remain long past their usefulness, hindering innovation in small businesses. So the FCC aims to remove unnecessary regulations and welcomes feedback in the process. So the American people deserve a government that delivers results efficiently. Carr stated the initiative aligns with the broader efforts to streamline regulations and foster a more business-friendly environment. So, there we go. I think that's what's really going to be down to. And it's not going to be so much about us as it is more of the bigger broadcasting and commercial stations. So got a little bit more of a dry throat this afternoon. So that's having to keep it wet as we continue to read through some of these. Well, this next story, I had not seen it till just the other night. And I couldn't think of a more well-deserving guy to be able to receive this award. Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, an awesome guy, a great guy. I get goosebumps thinking about him. He's absolutely just a dear friend of mine. We've done some work together, and I was on his podcast at one point. I'm going to try and get him onto this podcast here, and he is the Ham of the Year, and he earned his novice ticket back in 1976 when he was, the remarkable age of just 5. It's incredible. So he's one of the youngest hams licensed amateur radio operators ever, and currently a visiting professor of the chemistry of Xavier University. Neil has a rich history in education. Has previously taught high school chemistry and sponsored the Amateur Radio Club for 28 years at Evansville, Indiana, Harrison and Bloomington High Schools South. During his tenure, he introduced 3,600 students to amateur radio and STEM classrooms, and Bloomington South consistently excelled in the high school division of School Club Roundup. In 2019, Neil co-founded and became the camp director of Youth on the Air, and that's where a lot of you guys may know him from. You can always find him at Huntsville, Hamvention, Hamcation, things like that. And he connects young amateurs and with peers through activities that encourage their continued involvement in amateur radio. Yoda groups organize peer-led activities such as summer camps, contesting opportunities, and special events for licensed amateur radio operators under the age of 26. Neil's contributions to the amateur radio community extend further. He is a contributing editor of the Next Gen Contesters column in the National Contest Journal, a member of the ARIS USA Committee, a reporter and anchor for Amateur Radio Newsline, and the founder and former host of Ham Talk Live webcast. So, a guy I absolutely just admire and I look up to myself. He's been great, and he does a great job with the Youth on the Air camps, and I was able to assist him last year with that story. I don't think I've really shared that out, but I ended up taking 2 pallets, basically 4x4 pallets in the back of my truck from Springfield, Massachusetts, all the way to Maine to meet his wife and I think her sister or something like that. Maybe it was his wife, to deliver those pallets and put it in the back of their SUV, and then deliver that to Halifax, Canada, so Nova Scotia there. So that's where they were doing Youth on the Air. And then this next one is the final third news story. Again, I just find these very relevant. I think people need to know this type of stuff, and that's why I share the news stories I do. I keep them pretty limited. I don't want to keep this whole news podcast or this whole podcast about news, but I think there's some great stories out there that people need to hear about that they may not hear otherwise or may have not caught on another channel somewhere. And so the Voice of America Museum in West Chester, Ohio remains unaffected by federal cuts to the VOA's parent agency, as a nonprofit that operates solely on public support, not government funding. Executive Director Jack Dominic assured visitors that the museum will continue to share VOA's history despite changes to the news agency. Hams worldwide are welcome during Hamvention in May. Hours are from noon to 9. And May 15th to 17th, and noon to 5, May 18th. Admission's $10 at the door. And WC8 VOA will be on the air, so bring a copy of your license and you can operate there as well. So this is all with the amateur radio news with a release date of March 29th, 2025. Well, with that, let's get into the Ham Radio Guy Joke of the Week. It's now time for the Ham Radio Guy Joke of the Week, where Rick tells us the joke. The Ham Radio Guy Joke of the Week is brought to you by Ham Radio Prep. Now here is Rick Garrett, N9 GSU, with today's Ham Radio Guy Joke of the Week.
March is coming, and I have a tradition on March the 17th of going and operating with my dear friend who is green and sits outside during warm weather. His name is Patty O'Furniture.
This has been the Ham Radio Guy Joke of the Week with Rick Garrett, N9 GSU. Turn in next week for another joke from Rick. I appreciate N9 GSU for those. That's great. I truly love those. I think it just adds a little bit of segment to the show, and I hope that you guys enjoy them as well. Feel free to comment on them ever, and if you think they're corny, but I do love a good dad joke once in a while. So Well, let's get into this week's topic a little bit. And I think this will be a great way to go. But before we do that, I want to talk about, we're going to talk about it a little bit during the episode topic anyway, but if you need a reliable mount for your radio or tablet, check out Lido Mounts. They have you covered whether you're in your shack, car, or in the field. Lido's high-quality mounts keep your gear secure and easily accessible. As a listener to the Ham Radio Guy, you can save on your next purchase. Use code Ham Radio Guy at checkout for an exclusive discount. Don't settle on for unstable setups. Get a mount that works for you as hard as you do. Visit lidomounts.com today and upgrade your experience. As an affiliate, I'll obviously get a little bit of kickback from that, but definitely support the podcast and check out their full lineup at lidoradio.com. And don't forget to use my link in the Ham Radio Guy and tell them they sent you. You can find more about the show, link in the show notes. And if you have any questions, reach out to me at W0MET at thehamradioguy.com. So, appreciate you checking them out. And I know Jim over there at Lido Radio will appreciate it as well. If you need some type of mount, he can fix you up and help you out. So, well, this is a very important message, I think, to bring you today. This is great for mobile operators, and this is really talking about the safe and effective vehicle operations while using ham radio. And I think we can all do this, very well probably, but I don't know that there's any stories out there that I could find that said, hey, ham radio operator dies while operating, ham radio in vehicle, I didn't find anything to that nature. But, we still all have those reports that we hear quite often talking about distracted driving. And I guess that's, really where that boils down to. So whether you're checking into a net on your commute or chasing DX while road tripping, which I'm guilty of, or just running mobile HF during a POTA activation, safety and efficiency are always key. So, buckle up and adjust your mobile rig and hit the road going, 100 miles an hour with your mobile operation, however you want to do it. And, I think some of the content that we'll provide you today is maybe some legal considerations, some safety tips. And I would like to say most of this is always what we consider common sense, but that's only, so common. And so, I think operating ham radio from a vehicle is a great way to, stay active on the air and while traveling. And I appreciate it myself. And I really also have a ham radio in my vehicle for emergency communication and real-time reporting and just casual QSOs. I mean, those are probably my top three things that I'm doing it for and having a radio in my vehicle. And emergency communications is probably number one. I can find a way to holler out to somebody if I need to, but if we're working a storm or something, you can also do real-time reporting. And I know that, if you have a 2-meter vehicle sometime or 2-meter radio in your vehicle, is that you may not be able to get out somewhere, close enough to hit a repeater or a simplex channel of some sort with somebody, and being able to hear somebody. So having HF in your vehicle can be very important from that standpoint, and being able to reach out if you were to have an emergency. And so, it is one of the best ways to be mobile, versus having a fixed station, in your house. And I think it's something you have to figure out how to balance that radio operation with safe driving habits. And I think there's a lot of things to take away from that. And so how people can configure their setups and installing ham radio in the vehicle. I didn't check this, and I probably should have, and I just thought about it, but checking local and state laws regarding mobile communication services in your vehicle. I know, some states will allow like scanners for ham operators because of, storms and things like that, storm spotting. But some states will not allow you to have scanners in your vehicles. So some have restrictions around some of that. I don't know that there's any state currently that is restricting handheld microphone operations while driving. There have been some states that have tried to push it, that they're trying to say you can't operate a radio during that time, but I don't think that none of those they've all got past the House and local representatives from that regards to be able to allow ham radio operators. We try and squish that as much as possible and keep that from being blocked in these certain states that tend to be a little bit more liberal around some of that stuff and pushing their luck with what you can do. And I get why they do it, and they're trying to have safe operations, but you also have to you can't restrict truckers with CBs or policemen with handhelds or firemen or ambulances with fire trucks, and they all have radios with handhelds in them. And so, we're kind of not in that same category, but we kind of do respond to emergencies in ways as well. So one of the first couple safety tips here is, looking, for mobile operators is that we're going to be talking about first is, I think safety is kind of the top of the list for me to be able to consider. And, is there a way for you to, use a switch of some sort for PTT other than just the hand mic? Can you use a Bluetooth headset? Do you turn on Vox? Any of those sort of things for, more of the hand-free operation? And you want to consider those items if possible. The other thing would be probably number two. Maybe number one should be the equipment being mounted securely. Ensuring your radio mic and accessories are installed to avoid distractions. So are they blocking on your dash? Are they mounted in a secure location to the side of the, center console? Do you have them in a secure mount of some sort? If you're getting to an accident, do they go flying? Is it something you hit? Is it something that can go flying off and hit you? So mounting the equipment securely in your vehicles, probably number one for me, to be able to have that. And then number two is talking about just kind of the hands-free operations, if possible, and using that in your radio if you can, if it's got the options available, or if you have a way to do a Bluetooth, you can connect to something, for Bluetooth to be able to use your radio. There's not a lot of radios out there with that yet, but, I know there's a few more handhelds that have come out with it. Another thing that is really based around safety is, do you have preset frequencies? Can you program the common repeaters, simplex, HF frequencies before hitting the road that you might be using? So you can quickly dial, reach over and you can hit, and it says 195, and that's channel, whatever for a local repeater, or rotate to channel 5, and it's like, or it might, when you rotate it, it might just say Springfield repeater. Maybe you have some voice options in some of the radios to be able to do that. I know when I was an officer that we could rotate our radio, down here without looking at it, and just rotate the dial and it'd say channel 2, whatever. And we'd know channel 2 was the right channel we needed to be on for going and doing what we're going to run a check or some sort. So radios certainly have that capability sometimes. And, can you take advantage of that if possible? So you can just rotate the dial until you get to know what channel you need to be on. It will announce it or tell you. And if it does have that, let me know what radio it is that you have in comments. Let me know if that's a feature that's in your radio. Maybe you can go check out. It probably refers back to my podcast I did a long time ago. I'd say last summer, some sort even, that says, did you read your manual? Have you gone through the manual for your radio and knowing all its features inside and out and how to truly operate that radio? So maybe you don't realize it has that feature, and maybe you can enable that for yourself, something to think about. And then limit some multitasking. If you're operating HF, can you pull over for tuning or maybe for logging rather than doing it while driving? I've been guilty of it before myself. I have done it, and I probably shouldn't be. Can you have somebody else? Does your wife with you? Can she log? Can your friend log with you if you're doing a road trip? Can you, do something like that? That would allow you to be able to continue to focus on the road and not trying to pull out your phone or a tablet to type in a call sign in a 5-9, or some type of other note that you need to make, a U.S. park or something like that. So certainly some good safety tips there to think about, and I hope that you maybe consider using some of them if you have not already, and I think that's a good place to go. So I think the next thing I'd like to point out in this topic for safe and effective vehicle operations while using ham radio is really some best practices. And this maybe goes into some safety as well, but I think it's more just about best practices. And obviously your antenna placement is very crucial. If you can get it in the center of your roof, you can get better performance. You get the gain of the vehicle. You can get good radiating power from that center mounted antenna. If you can mount it that way, unless you're using a mag, or you can use that as kind of your ground plane. If you have a magnet mount on the top, I'm not able to do that. I have an aluminum vehicle. I'm able to just put it on the corner up by my hood, and so but having it on your roof kind of keeps your vehicle view clear from having all these big antennas, blocking a view potentially. So that's the reason we talk about roof-mounted antennas. Using a quality power source, wiring your rig directly to your battery with proper fuses, especially if it's an HF rig. Typically, most of these vehicles will not support, throwing 100 watts out on a 13.8 volt cigarette lighter. I don't know that they always have you have too much of a voltage drop there otherwise, and you may also encounter some line noise with that, or electrical noise of some sort. And so it's better if you can hardwire it somehow, like directly to your battery. And again, fusing it is a good practice as well. Monitoring your audio, adjusting your mic gain beforehand, before traveling, using any type of noise canceling microphones, avoiding some of the background noise. If you've got kids or something in the car and you're trying to operate, might be something to think about. And then, obviously keeping your conversations brief to avoid distracting. Making some short exchanges can be helpful as well, versus long drawn out. But, obviously if you're driving, you want to be able to talk, and I guess you're trying to keep yourself occupied. If you're on a long trip, having HF operation can be very handy. And, as I'm thinking about this myself, is I'm going to be taking my wife's car on a road trip here in about 2 weeks from today. I'll be on the road. And I was just going to throw the 705 into the passenger seat and put a mag mount on the top of the roof and run that in through the edge of the door. But I may want to find a more secure way myself to be able to mount that for traveling. Just, what if you get into an accident or you have to hit the brakes hard for some reason, that thing goes flying, don't have it really well secured. Maybe I can find a way it's got a wind camp cage around it. I might be able to take some string or something and or a bungee and tie it around the seat so it stays in place. Something that I might think about that way. But I probably need to consider that myself. Something I'm thinking about it. Just, I don't normally have an HF or a 2-meter rig in her car, and I'm going on a 18, 20-hour road trip. So I probably need to really make sure that I have something in there to be able to secure that. Let me grab a drink. All right. So there's your best practices. Well, I can't say that today. While the drink still goes down my throat, for mobile operations. Now here is probably the next topic out of this is my biggest, I'm guilty of, and I have struggled with this mostly, is trying to figure out how to log a QSO and make it be done safely while traveling. Apparently voice logging apps like Hamlog can support a voice input for hands-free logging. Maybe you have a dash camera recorder that you might consider recording QSOs with, and going back and manually logging them later might be an option. Or, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, having a co-pilot, passenger help you log and focus on the road that way. And those are really the three best ways to do it. I think, there is possible that, you might have some other way to do it. And if you do, please leave a comment. I'd love to be able to hear about that and what that consists of and how you're doing it. Maybe you have some other type of voice operation you're doing. Maybe you're just sticking into notes temporarily, and you go back and log it later in some type of mobile app as you go. And then we have kind of our fifth segment here, and this will be the final one of talking about safe vehicle operations. Is as you're doing HF mobile, some considerations to consider. And I think HF creates more of a unique challenge because you are trying to log that contact. And I've had DX contacts. I've had, extensive long contacts, with, HF operations. And it can be challenging to find a ways to log that. And, I've pulled over at times to be able to log, to be able to make sure I get that contact and get it, documented as best I can. And so, it's, much different than what just 2 meter or 440 would be. And you're just making a regular contact on an everyday repeater. You don't necessarily, don't necessarily need to log those contacts, right? So where HF could be more important for that. And so, if you have, there's a lot more into HF operations as you're having to worry about, proper grounding of the vehicle and having, your antennas more securely mounted. They're typically a lot more heavy duty than what your typical 2 meter or 440 quarter wave antenna might be. So, you have a lot more equipment that you usually have to throw in with it. You might sometimes have an amplifier, you might have a tuner, depending on the type of radio and setup that you have. And so, screwdriver antennas are great. I have the ATAS 120 on my vehicle. And what really makes that one nice is because it's got the auto tune capability. I literally just hit a button and it's good to go. It makes it really simple. So I do appreciate that one, but I know like I want to say it's called auto tune or something like that. I don't remember the exact name offhand. I didn't pull it in my notes, but you have to push a separate button for that one. And, that might be mounted somewhere on your dash, or you might just have loose wire that you have to pull up and look for and to push the button to be able to make that happen. So, if you can get a screwdriver antenna with auto tune capability that's controlled from your radio, and which, like it's button number 1, you can just hit all the time and program it. That's great. The other thing was, as you talk about HF operations for mobile setups, is the proper grounding. Again, having that vehicle grounded and some noise filtering. You can pick up a lot of ignition and alternator noise or interference from, vehicles. And apparently I've understood that electric vehicles are some of the worst. But my F-150 is just as bad. I mean, it's got a lot of vehicle noise, and I've got chokes going in line before it goes into the radio, and I still got noise. I put the noise blanker on. It does help reduce it quite a bit. It is, better, but I can hear the noise from time to time. Just going down the road in my vehicle, depending on where I'm at, what part of the road, I will get power lines along this road with me, and they're parallel, and I can hear that noise coming right from my vehicle. So I can just hear the static coming across, and it's much different than I was when I was a half mile down the road where there was no power lines at the time. So those make a difference. Obviously, weather and changing band conditions changing of propagation and road conditions can obviously affect and impact a safe operation of operating in HF mode as well. So a lot of things to think about here. There's a lot to go into these things. And again, I would think most of us, I would tend to think that we use common sense in doing this. But again, I haven't heard any major stories where ham radio operator dies while operating radio in mobile vehicle. But I think we would hear that if there was. But I hope that you will just take these tips, considerations into consideration while you're operating mobile ham radio. And I think mobile operation is very exciting. I love. It's a great way to stay on the air. I love doing it while I'm traveling. But again, safety does need to come first. You're not just putting your life or your passengers' lives at risk. You could be putting the person that's going down the road the opposite way or in front of you, behind you, at risk as well, because you're distracted and you're not paying attention. And so I hope that you will, make sure to always be considerate and respectful of those others that are occupying and sharing the roadway with you. But I think with the right setup and best practices, you can enjoy a seamless mobile QSO without compromising your focus on the road. So I think it just takes a little bit of work, and you've got to be able to practice a little bit with it and to be able to do that. So that's it for today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, share, and check out the website for more content. Over at patreon.com/the ham radio guy. You can always find additional information there that is not shared on the podcast. And I hope that you'll find more information there. So I wanted to say, with that, a big thank you to, all the Patreon supporters, and that, you help make the Ham Radio Guy podcast possible. And your contributions keep the content coming and the mics on. So if you're looking for all things ham radio, go visit us over at patreon.com/the ham radio guy. Again, where you'll find some exclusive content that's not shared. And, I want you to stay in the loop by joining the conversation and being a part of your favorite podcast platform. So, that's all I've got. Thanks for tuning in, being a part of the conversation. And don't forget to share your thoughts, questions, or stories, and email me or connect over at Twitter and Patreon. Until next time, 73 and happy hamming. Keep those antennas high and the signal strong, and I'll catch you on the next episode of the Ham Radio Guy. And I guess that's a little blooper for the first episode with this new system, is that the music for the podcast out went a little sooner than expected there. So hanging in there a little bit extra long, but we appreciate it, and thanks for being a part of this podcast. Have a great week. Until next time, we'll talk to you.